A few weeks ago, I did a video claiming that I would never buy another AR-15. The whole point being that instead of buying a rifle, I prefer to build them these days. Well, right now, we are working on a new 11.5-inch build. In fact, I just got the optic, EOTech EXPS3. Pretty excited about that. Hopefully I'll get the receivers here soon and we can put all this stuff together in the next episode of the build series. But I had a lot of questions on that video about tools because one of the claims that I made in that video is that it doesn't really take a whole lot of tools to build an AR, that you don't need to invest a whole lot of money into tools. And that is true, but there are certain tools that you do need. And so to answer some of you guys, today I'm going to show you exactly what you do need and nothing that you don't. I've got a few tools on the table in front of me, and this is all I've ever needed in order to build an AR. And not just an AR, but like take apart a 2011 and swap out parts. Put a Glock together. You don't really need as many tools as many people might lead you to believe, and so there isn't really this huge investment as far as money goes. And in fact, starting with my first AR build, I kind of started with even less than this, and I still was able to get it done. Over time, I've kind of collected what I believe to be the necessary tools, and we're going to go over them today. So I'm going to kind of show you as we go what tool goes to what part of the build without breaking YouTube's guidelines on building firearms. YouTube, I am doing nothing against your guidelines in this video. Everything is up to snuff. We're going to use my 300 Blackout as a visual aid as I go through what tools you need for what part. Mainly I'm using this because it's nice and light and small and easy to move around in front of me with all these other tools here. Now there's a couple of things that we're going to need. One of the most important things that you need for just about everything is a hammer and punch set. I really like this one from BESTNULE. Not expensive. This is like 28 bucks, $27.99 on Amazon for this. And it comes with this bench thing here, which is very important. And we're going to go over that. But $27.99, you can get it for like 20 bucks without this, but I promise you want this. That is one of the most important things. I used to, whenever I needed a punch, I would just go buy whatever punch size I needed that day from the local Ace Hardware and use a real hammer, and I have scratched up some receivers. Get the right tools. They're not that expensive. You're also going to need this. This is your torque wrench, and it is necessary for doing your barrel nut. It's going to be basically a universal thing, and you put whatever barrel nut wrench comes with whatever handguard that you bought. You're going to need this. This is just an AR wrench. There's a lot of companies that make them. This is kind of a cheaper one, but it hasn't failed me yet. It is really nice to have a real torque wrench as well, like one of these. There's a lot of things that ask for torque specs that are smaller things. Something like this is real nice. You will need to calibrate it, or there goes my calibration. That was kind of funny. You're going to need a vise, and it's a way to hold your gun up while you're working on it. This block right here, let's see if we can show you. This attaches into your mag well, and it makes it really easy to work on your firearm. You're going to need Allen wrenches, but more importantly, torx wrenches, which are the star bits. And we're going to look closer at all this stuff in a minute. This is an upper receiver block. To be honest, I hardly ever use it, but it is a nice thing to have. Clevis pin, very important, very cheap, like 69 cents at your local hardware store. I'll show you what we use that for. You do need the aeroshell grease. This is going to be for your barrel nut as well. And you're going to need Loctite. Blue, red, rock set. They're all used for different things. Most things that you're going to use it for on building an AR, the blue is what you want because it is actually removable. And that's pretty much it for tools. So we're going to look at them up close. I'm going to show you what we use these different things for as the build goes along. And I hope this is interesting and helps you guys out. Have you ever been a victim of identity theft, fraud? Have you been hacked, scammed, or doxxed? Well, then this video sponsor is for you. And this video is sponsored by Aura, which is kind of perfect. We're talking about the tools that you need to get the job done. Well, Aura gives you the tools that you need in order to stay safe on the internet. See, the reason why you're getting scammed, hacked, your identity being stolen, is because data brokers are online selling your personal information, and they're selling very detailed personal information, which is out there from data leaks. It's scary stuff, to be quite honest, and they're making billions of dollars doing it. How does that make you feel? It doesn't make me feel very good. That information is your information. That information is my information and nobody else's. Well, Aura is pretty awesome because what they do is they go and they take care of that. They get your information scrubbed, and then you don't get scammed and you don't get spam anymore. So try it out free for 2 weeks at my link, aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. 2 weeks is enough time for Aura to get out there and scrub your information off the internet. But then decide if you want to keep it or not. If you do, you get alerts if your personal info is found on the dark web. Real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking. You get 24/7 fraud monitoring, and they have a whole team in the US available around the clock for help if anything happens. You get a VPN, antivirus software, and a password manager, and you get $5 million in identity theft insurance. It is well worth it. But again, try it out, see if it's worth it to you or not at aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. You get 14 days absolutely free. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. I've got a table covered in parts and tools here, and we're going to kind of go over them and what you need them for. Now, one of the most important things to me is this. This is a bench block, and it is used to use your roll pins here in your hammer set. Now, this is going to be very important for a lot of things. This one is kind of designed for use with a 1911, like that's for your barrel link right there. They've got a tool to get your barrel bushing off on the back, but it's fantastic for working on ARs as well. Now, when you go to do the gas block, there's a roll pin right there that holds your gas tube in. That thing can be kind of a nightmare to get in. I've been dumb in the past and not had the correct tools. You have something like this. You have the correct punch. You have the correct hammer. You see, this won't mar the finish of your AR. And they have other, ends that you could put in this hammer as well. This again is from BESTNULE. I got it on Amazon, and it is dirt cheap for what you get here. This is something I highly recommend. You would be surprised as you go through the years gunsmithing or building firearms how many times you need different roll pin punches, and to have all of the correct size ones, a hammer that's not going to damage your AR, it makes a very, very big difference. I've started using this recently, and it's made my life so much easier. And again, it's only $27.99, and you get all of the punches that you could possibly need for doing all of the things that you need punches for roll pin punches. One of the main ones, like I said, is your gas block to your gas tube. It's also a giant help for your trigger pins, for when you're getting your detents in, for your takedown pins. There's just so many things that you're going to use it for that I think that it is something that is well worth having. Even for pistol use, so like this is a PSA dagger. It doesn't have standard Glock pins. Getting these roll pins out in order to change this trigger out was a nightmare. If I had had this set before I did that, it would have made my life much easier. And same thing with 1911s, 2011s. There's all kinds of pins and stuff you use, and you don't want to damage the finish on your gun, which is why it's really nice to have the right kind of hammer with the right ends here, the right size punches, and this makes a huge difference. So when you're punching something out, if you have this behind it, then it gives it room for that pin to go through and come out the other end. You can't just do it on a table here because that pin has nowhere to go when you're hammering it out. So this is extremely helpful. It's also nice because it's magnetized in here, and you could store your different pins in these slots. Let's see if I can pull one out real quick. You know, they have slots for the different size pins, and it's just really nice. It's really helpful. I think that it's something that I should have bought a long time ago. You know, you could save your screws, your detents, your springs, your pins, all your stuff in here where it's magnetized. Don't damage your gun. It's worth 27 bucks to not damage your gun. I'll have a link for this set in the description because it has become so invaluable to me. I really should have got it a long time ago. Again, it's BESTNULE and it is not very expensive. Now, since we were just talking about the gas block and gas tube, let's just kind of start at the front and move our way back. So this thing right here is an AR wrench, and these different things are different sizes, you know, for things like your muzzle device. Now, most of us these days are running suppressors, and so this might not work for your muzzle device. So we'll get back to this in a minute, but when it does come to your barrel nut here, you do need a torque wrench because there are torque specs that are very important on a couple of parts on this thing. You don't need a really expensive digital one. This one has worked great for me. Like I said, it is universal. So whatever handguard you get, like this Geisley handguard right here, it comes with a barrel nut. Now, the different companies are going to have proprietary barrel nuts with proprietary barrel nut wrenches. And so you take, and their barrel nut wrench is going to look something like this. This one, I believe, is a Daniel Defense one for my Mark 18 for the Riz 2. But you hook it on here, and you crank on it, and this pointer right here is going to point to whatever torque you're at. Crank it to the torque spec that you need for your barrel nut, for your handguard. That is very important. Now, as we move back here, one of the most difficult parts of the build for most people, myself included, is the takedown pins. The takedown pin and the pivot pin. You know what? If you have the right tool, it's very easy. Now, there are tools that you could buy specifically for this job, but if you want to save some money, all you need is a clevis pin. Get one that's the same size as your takedown pins. And the way that it works, so there's a detent that comes in here with a spring behind it, and that is why this thing is captured, why it doesn't come all the way out. There's a groove on the back here that detent goes in. Well, getting that detent in and that pin in there is not easy unless you have something like this. You see, you put the detent through that hole, and then you turn it to hold the detent in, put your takedown pin behind it, push it in, and it ends up just in there. It makes a job that the first time I did it took way too long to literally, it takes seconds now. This is the cheapest tool in the world, and it is a lifesaver on an AR build. Now, just like the clevis pin, you know, there are specialized tools that you can buy for all of this stuff, but you can also not buy specialized tools and make it work. So this is a little vise I got at my local hardware store. I can clamp it to any table or bench that I want. And this block here, well, it goes in your magwell, and it actually clips in. And then, it's hard to do behind the camera on the table here, but then it holds your gun up to work on it. That is extremely important as well. And there's an upper receiver block here too, that a standard upper receiver will go in. My problem is that I generally am working with non-standard uppers, you know, like the Volter MUR or this Aero Precision M4E1. So this will only work for a very standard upper receiver, but if it's mil spec, this will work. And it's nice because you could throw it in the vise, clamp down on it, and you're not actually clamping down on your upper. You can use this to get your barrel nut on. Really what you should use is a reaction rod, and I don't have one in front of me right now because it's loaned out. But I have built ARs without a reaction rod. In fact, I built this AR without a reaction rod, and it worked just fine. So you can get around that, but the reaction rod will hold your action in place. Not your action, but you know, your chamber in your barrel while you crank down and torque on that barrel nut with your torque wrench. It just kind of helps everything not get damaged while you're putting a ton of torque on the gun. But again, upper receiver block can work pretty well for that as well. As we move back, because we're not going to go through the whole build here, your castle nut. Castle nut is another very important one, kind of like your barrel nut. This is a castle nut wrench. This little pin that sticks out here goes in that groove, and you torque this thing on. This one works well. It's not the best one in the world. I keep expecting it to break every time I build a new AR, but it hasn't broken yet, and it's torqued them on just fine. That castle nut does need to be torqued on. Now, earlier I did talk about greases and thread locker. You do need to use the aeroshell grease on your barrel nut. That's very important. Thread locker you're going to use on some things. Look it up, decide what you want to use it on or not. In the past, I did not use Loctite on things that I should have. And occasionally I have had things come loose and I've had to Loctite them. Even just things as simple as optic screws, having some blue Loctite is very important. And then since we moved back, again, trigger pins, well, that is where your hammer and punch set comes in. Just makes your life so much easier. Again, highly recommended. Now this kind of stuff, ARs aren't really screwed together much. It's mostly like pins and stuff. But most of your accessories, optics, different things that you're going to mount, lights, lasers, all of that stuff, almost all of it is Torx nowadays. And so you can either get a whole Torx set or even just something like this. The point in this video is kind of showing you guys the minimum things that you can do it with. So this has like every size you're going to need to build an AR. These things are super cheap. Got it at my local hardware store and I've used the absolute hell out of it. Don't use hex wrenches, Allen wrenches where you're supposed to use Torx. Torx is much better than hex. And everybody, Torx, 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 Torx. Everything is using Torx now. Torx is the way to go. Now, I was talking about this punch set earlier. This is really nice too. So these are just kind of wipes, but I did forget to mention this. When you're starting a pin, to be able to hold it while you tap it in with that hammer is honestly maybe more important than anything else here. Especially if you don't want to damage your finish. I can't tell you how many times, these pins and stuff are small. And like the one in the gas block, I keep going back to because it can be really tough. The gas block is round and it rolls around if you don't have it in something like this. And trying to hold that pin in place and get it in can be tough. But if you have the right stuff, if you're able to set your gas block, put the pin in, hold it while it starts, and tap it in with that hammer, something that is really difficult becomes extremely easy. And that's kind of the point of this video. This is literally all the tools that you need. Everything that I showed you here, you don't need anything more than that. There's plenty of other stuff that you can get, but this is all that you need. And you'll be able to build an AR. And these kinds of things are going to make your life so much easier. You can build it without some of these things, but it's going to be so much easier if you have them. Again, like this for 28 bucks, coming with this and the starter tweezers, makes your life so easy. Nothing worse than swearing and being frustrated because, you lost a freaking roll pin or a detent. So make your life easy. One thing I forgot to mention when we were up close is the Vortex torque wrench. This I mainly use for mounting optics. It is really nice because you can set your torque, put whatever bit you want in the end, and as you're screwing something in, it'll screw it to that torque spec and then it'll click and you're done. That's really nice as well. Big torque wrench for your barrel nut, smaller one for things like optic screws and stuff like that. Makes a big difference. So I hope this video was helpful. I have to be careful with what I say and show on YouTube when it comes to builds. They don't like that word for some reason. There's certain to YouTube. So I hope this is helpful. I'm going to put some links down below in the description of some of this stuff. I'll put a link to this because this is the most recent thing I got. and it's something that I wished I'd gotten a long time ago. This is that BESTNULE hammer and punch set, and the bench block here with the the pin starter tweezers and everything. Honestly, a lifesaver and well worth the money. But I think I could probably find links to more of these things too. I'm going to put as much of that as I can in the description to help you guys out. But yeah, let me know if this helped or not. Let me know if there's any other tools, those of you that have built a bunch of ARs, that you recommend that I didn't show here, because I've built a bunch of these now with just what's here in front of me, with what I showed when I was up close in this video. You don't need, the whole Real Avid $300 tool set. Now, is that a nice thing to have? Hell yeah, dude. And if you want to spend that kind of money on it, go for it. I'd rather, spend that money on getting a nicer optic or a nicer handguard, something like that. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like if you could save your money on your tools, you could put that money into your parts and have a nicer build. But still got to make sure that you do it right. Torque your stuff to spec. Use the correct tools. That way you don't damage your gun. And, get a clevis pin. This will make your life much less frustrating when you're doing those takedown pins. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical. And from Sawtooth Tactical, well, stay strapped or get clapped.